Hi boys and girls, today we're going to go over take home number 4 for class 621. Question number 1. Use the greater than, less than, or equal sign to solve the inequality below. We have 4 and 70/100ths and 4 and 7/100ths. And you'll notice I lined up each number one on top of the other so that the place values were on top of each other and the decimal points were on top of each other as well. So I can see when I look at the ones position, my numbers are the same. They're equal so far. When I move to the tens position, I notice that 4 and 70/100ths, the 7 is greater than the 4 and 7/100ths here. So that means 4 and 70/100ths is greater than 4 and 7/100ths. And my inequality sign should be open to a larger number. Next, we have 7,263 times 27. When we multiply the first line, we should have 50,841. If you have something different, then you multiplied incorrectly. For the second line, we should have 145,260. Then X is a placeholder. And then we're going to add down. We end up with 196,101. Number 3. Use the order of operations to solve. Well, we're going to use PEMDAS to help us. Parentheses first, so that means 30 divided by 6 is 5. And everything else is going to come straight down to the next line. Parentheses are done. Next is the exponent. 5 to the third power means 5 times 5 times 5, which is 125. So the 5 comes down and the 10 comes down. So we have 5 plus 125 plus 10. There's no multiplication or division. We're left with addition and subtraction, or really just addition, and that has to go from left to right. So 5 plus 125 is 130, and 130 plus 10 is 140. Next, find the product of 40 and 99/100ths and 2 and 1/10. You'll notice I moved that 2 and 1/10 down just under the 40 and 99/100ths. And I multiplied as if the place value was not there. The first line is 4,099. The second line is 81,980. If you have something other than that, please check your multiplication. When we add, it becomes 86,079. To place the decimal point, we need to know how many decimal place values were in the question, and I can see in 40 and 99/100ths there's 2, and in 2 and 1/10 there's 1. So that means there's 3 decimal place values in the question. We need 3 in the answer as well. So we're going to scoop from right to left 3 places. That means the decimal point goes between the 6 and the 0. So our product is 86 and 79 thousandths. Number 5. Subtract 98 and 5/10ths and 11 and 23/100ths. To do that, I need to line our numbers up with the decimal point one on top of the other. That means that our place values are lined up correctly and we can subtract. Before we subtract, we have to add a placeholder above the 3. And from here, we're going to have to borrow and subtract. After we've borrowed and subtracting, we end up with 8,727. The decimal point comes straight down into the solution, so it's 87 and 27/100ths. Next, find the quotient of 802 and 4/10ths divided by 1 and 7/10. To be able to divide with decimals, we need to move our decimal point over one position, so we have no decimal in the divisor. This is really like multiplying both numbers by 10, and we're finding really an equivalent ratio or fraction here when we multiply by 10 to both numbers. From here, 17 goes into 80 probably about 4 times. If I'm estimating 17 is close to 20. Let's see what 17 times 4 is. It's 68. And I'm trying to write small and my pen is not working. 80 minus 68 is 12. So I'm going to bring the 2 down. Let's see, I'm going to estimate 17 times 6 because I know 20 times 6 is 120. And that's 102. I think another group of 17 can go into 122. Yep, it's 119, so that means 17 can go in 7 times, and that's 119. When we subtract, the difference is 3. I'm going to bring the 4 down, and it should be 17 times 2 is 34 exactly, with no remainder. So our quotient is 472. Number 7, find the sum. To find the sum, again, we need to line up our decimal points so that our place values are all lined up, and we can fill in a placeholder here. And then we're going to add straight down. We end up with 51,532, but the decimal point must come straight down into the sum. So it's really 51 and 532 thousandths. Next, find the quotient. I've shown all of the long division here. If you got this one incorrect, check that each line as we go is the same in your long division. Once we get to this 7 on the bottom, it's cut off, I can see that the pattern is going to repeat. So if I'm continuously dividing here, this 6, 3, 6, 3, 6, 3 is going to keep going. So our quotient really is 761 and decimal 63 repeating. If you decided to write your answer as a fraction instead, you would have stopped at this point, circle it, when you got to the remainder of 7, and then 7 becomes your numerator, 11 becomes your denominator. So 761 and 7/11. Number 9, what's the least common multiple of 8 and 12? Well, to find the least common multiple, we need to list the multiples of each number. And you'll see that I made a list here for 8. The multiples are 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. And my list can keep going on and on and on. For 12, it's 12, 24, 36, and 48. Again, that list can keep going. I see that 24 is the same in both lists, and so is 48. It's asking for the least common. 24 is the smallest, so that's our LCM. What's the greatest common factor of 40 and 60? I've already listed the factors of 40, and when I was making my list of factors, in my head I was making a rainbow tree. I know that 1 times 40 is 40, so 1 and 40 are factors. 2 times 20 is 40, 2 and 20 are factors. 4 times 10 is 40, and 5 times 8. So these are all my factors of 40. I'm going to do the same for 60. 1 times 60 is 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15, 5 times 12, and 6 times 10. So those are all my factors of 60. To find the greatest common factor, I'm going to highlight it's the same in both. I have 1 and 2. 4s are in both lists. 5 is in both lists. 10 and 20. Since we're looking for the greatest common factor, my biggest common factor that's highlighted is 20. Alright, Kathy is baking cakes. If each cake requires 1/8 of a teaspoon of vanilla, and she has a 1/2 of a teaspoon, how many cakes can she bake? Well, she has a 1/2 and she wants to make groups of 1/8. That's division. And then we're going to keep change flip. Keep the first fraction as 1/2. Change the division to multiplication, and flip my second fraction around to 8/1. I'm going to multiply straight across. 1 times 8 is 8. 2 times 1 is 2. And when we reduce 8/2, we get 4. So Kathy can make 4 cakes. Find the quotient 2/5 divided by 3/5. Again, we're going to follow keep, change, flip. Keep the first fraction, change division to multiplication, and flip 3/5 to become 5/3. When we multiply 2 times 5, we get 10. When we multiply 5 times 3, we get 15. And both 10 and 15 are divisible by 5, so we're going to reduce it. It becomes 2/3. If you have any questions, please see me in class. I hope this helped. Have a good day.